Today we're diving deep into the profound insights of Carl Jung, specifically his most crucial discovery about human danger. This wasn't about obvious aggression, but a far more subtle, and therefore far deadlier phenomenon: unconscious shadow projection combined with absolute conviction. Jung didn't just theorize about this, he saw its devastating impact firsthand. In 1913, a patient entered his life who would forever redefine his understanding of human malevolence. This individual was charismatic, articulate, and outwardly seemed genuinely compassionate. Yet, Jung observed a chilling pattern: every person this patient demonized, labeling them as evil or manipulative, mysteriously shared traits that Jung recognized as the patient's own denied characteristics. This wasn't a simple misunderstanding, it was a systematic, unconscious act of projecting his own shadow onto everyone around him. The consequences were swift and brutal. Within half a year, this patient had shattered 3 relationships, caused 2 colleagues to lose their jobs, and pushed his own brother to a nervous breakdown. All the while, he maintained an unwavering belief in his own innocence, viewing himself as the ultimate victim. Jung realized he was witnessing something far more sinister than typical conflict. He was seeing the most perilous psychological mechanism in action. But here's where it gets truly terrifying. Modern neuroscience validates Jung's insights. When someone projects their shadow with absolute conviction, their brain literally rewrites reality to support these distorted perceptions. Dr. Robert Sapolsky's research at Stanford reveals that during intense projection, the same neural networks activate as in delusional states. The projector isn't lying, their brain has fundamentally altered their perception of reality. This is why shadow projectors are so incredibly convincing. They genuinely believe their distortions, their neural filtering system hijacked by their own unconscious content. Even more dangerously, this unwavering conviction creates what psychologists call reality distortion fields. They don't just misperceive you, they subtly compel others to see you through their warped lens. Jung's extensive case studies repeatedly show how shadow projectors annihilated reputations, destroyed relationships, and dismantled entire social networks simply by spreading their unconscious projections with unshakable certainty. Think back, have you ever been accused of motives you never held, emotions you never felt, or intentions you never possessed? If the accuser did so with absolute certainty, impervious to any evidence you presented, you were likely caught in the crosshairs of shadow projection. The more intense the projection, the more convinced the projector becomes, a psychological feedback loop that can ensnare families, workplaces, and entire communities. Ancient wisdom understood this long before Jung. Buddhism spoke of the darkened mirror, reflecting one's own impurities as external. Christianity warned about the speck in another's eye, while missing the beam in your own. But Jung took it further. Shadow projectors don't just misperceive, they actively create alternate realities that feel utterly real to them and disturbingly increasingly real to others. The critical warning sign emerges when there's a profound disconnect between how someone describes you and your actual inner experience. They attribute thoughts, feelings, and motivations to you that simply don't exist in your consciousness, yet they do it with such conviction that you begin to doubt your own reality. This is gaslighting, not as conscious manipulation but as unconscious reality distortion, powerful enough to drive targets to a genuine psychological breakdown. The projection itself isn't the ultimate danger. The true peril lies in how shadow projectors unconsciously recruit others into their warped world. Jung termed this collective possession, where entire groups begin to see reality through one person's distorted projections. Leon Festinger's work on cognitive dissonance explains this. The projector's absolute conviction creates immense psychological pressure, causing others to align their perceptions with the projector's certainty, rather than trusting their own contradictory observations. This is how families turn against scapegoated members, how workplaces mob innocent employees, and how communities destroy individuals based on baseless projected accusations. The projector becomes the eye of a psychological storm, unconsciously orchestrating others to attack the very qualities they refuse to confront within themselves. Jung saw this repeatedly in his most dangerous patients. They didn't just project, they engineered entire social systems around their projections, leaving their targets isolated, gaslit, and ultimately broken by a collective delusion they never created. Jung identified 5 unmistakable warning signs of dangerous shadow projection. Absolute certainty. They declare what you are, your internal states, motivations, and character, with complete conviction rather than expressing an opinion. Immunity to evidence. No amount of explanation, clarification, or contradictory proof can sway their perceptions. They twist your attempts to correct them into further validation of their accusations. Disproportionate emotional intensity. Their emotional reactions to perceived slights or behaviors are wildly out of proportion, revealing the projected content rather than your actual actions. Consistent victim narrative. They perpetually find themselves in conflicts, always the innocent victim of others' malice, manipulation, or cruelty. The cast changes, but the script remains the same. They are always the wronged party. Recruitment behavior. They subtly or overtly try to get others to see you through their distorted lens, often disguised as concerned conversations about your character. When these 5 signs converge, you're not dealing with a simple misunderstanding. You are facing unconscious shadow projection, a force that will escalate until it destroys something vital: your reputation, your relationships, or your very sanity. Jung's clinical observations revealed a predictable escalation. Stage 1. Initial projection. Subtle accusations that don't match your reality, often dismissed as misunderstandings. Stage 2. Conviction crystallization. Projections become more frequent, more certain. The projector shows no doubt, despite your corrections. Stage 3. Reality distortion. Everything you do is filtered through their projection. Neutral actions become proof of malicious intent. Stage 4. Social recruitment. They begin sharing concerns about you with others, always appearing to come from a place of care. Stage 5. Collective possession. Others begin seeing you through the projector's lens. You find yourself defending against accusations that seem to materialize from thin air. Stage 6. Systematic exclusion. The group organizes around the shared projection, systematically ostracizing or attacking you for qualities that primarily exist in the projector's unconscious. Understanding this pattern is crucial. The key is recognizing and disengaging at stage 2, before the projection gains collective momentum. But shadow projection isn't the only danger Jung revealed. He identified an even more perilous psychological state: ego inflation. While shadow projectors are unconsciously dangerous, inflated individuals are consciously convinced of their own righteousness, utterly blind to their own shadow. An inflated person doesn't just project, they identify with archetypal energies far beyond their personal capacity. They become possessed by the savior, the wise one, the truth bearer, or the righteous judge. Unlike obvious narcissists who are easily spotted, inflated individuals often appear spiritually evolved, morally superior, or intellectually enlightened. This apparent elevation makes them infinitely more dangerous, as people willingly submit to their perceived authority. Warning signs of dangerous inflation include never doubting themselves. While true wisdom involves humility, inflated individuals exhibit absolute certainty in their perceptions and judgments, interpreting any disagreement as evil or resistance to truth itself. Extraordinary charisma with rigid thinking. Their conviction is magnetically attractive, but their inflated state eliminates psychological flexibility. Jung warned that inflated individuals eventually collapse under the immense psychic tension of identifying their small ego with vast transpersonal forces. But before that collapse, they often inflict devastating damage on others through their unwavering belief in their own righteousness. Warning signs include uncanny social perfection. They never seem to have bad days, inappropriate reactions, or human inconsistencies. Artificiality. Despite technical correctness, interactions feel hollow or performed. Extreme reactions to image threats. Any challenge to their perfect persona triggers disproportionately defensive responses. Jung documented how these individuals often experience sudden shadow eruptions, explosive episodes, where all their repressed content violently emerges. The more perfect the persona, the more chaotic and dangerous the eventual shadow explosion. Perhaps the most alarming sign Jung identified is archetypal possession. This occurs when someone loses their individual identity, becoming a channel for transpersonal energies beyond their capacity to integrate. You recognize this state when a person's personality seems to vanish, replaced by something ancient and impersonal. Their eyes change, their voice shifts. They speak with an authority that doesn't belong to their personal experience. They might become possessed by the eternal victim, always suffering and demanding rescue, or the righteous warrior, fighting cosmic battles only they can see, or the divine parent, treating adults as children needing their guidance and control. The possessed person experiences extraordinary certainty and purpose, replacing the normal ambiguity of human consciousness with absolute conviction that can be powerfully persuasive. But archetypes contain extreme polarities. The same energy that produces saints also produces fanatics. A person possessed by the savior archetype will inevitably manifest its shadow aspects, often becoming the very thing they claim to oppose. Jung documented cases where possessed individuals committed acts utterly contrary to their conscious values, later experiencing amnesia or elaborate rationalizations. The final dangerous sign is what Jung called the compulsion to repeat, unconscious patterns where someone obsessively recreates the same painful situations, all while believing themselves to be victims of cruel fate. This might seem less dangerous, but individuals trapped in repetition compulsions unconsciously recruit others to play roles in their unresolved psychological dramas. The warning appears when you notice someone consistently ending up in identical painful situations with different people, always following strikingly similar scripts. They seem genuinely surprised each time, as if victims of destiny rather than unconscious architects of their own recurring experience. The danger for you is being recruited into their drama, finding yourself playing a role, often the betrayer, abandoner, or persecutor, in a story that began long before you met them. Jung called this negative synchronicity, the unconscious ability to orchestrate encounters that perpetuate unresolved patterns. Now that you can recognize these dangerous signs, how do you protect yourself? Jung's protection protocol is deceptively simple: conscious awareness combined with immediate boundary enforcement. 1. Trust your gut. If someone's perception of you consistently contradicts your internal experience, trust your internal reality over their projections. 2. Don't try to convince them. Shadow projectors, inflated and possessed individuals are immune to contradictory evidence. Attempting to convince them often strengthens their distortions. 3. Limit information. Do not share personal details that can be twisted into evidence for their projections. 4. Document interactions. Keep records of conversations and events. Projectors often rewrite history to fit their distorted narratives. 5. Seek outside perspective. Talk to trusted individuals who know both you and the projector. Reality check your perceptions with people outside the projection field. 6. Signs. Strategic withdrawal may be your only protection. Remember Jung's patient, the charming manipulator who destroyed lives while maintaining his innocence. Jung eventually realized his projections weren't random, they were systematic attempts to avoid confronting his own capacity for manipulation, cruelty, and selfishness. He couldn't tolerate these qualities in himself, so his unconscious mind projected them onto everyone else, allowing him to feel pure while unconsciously acting out the very behaviors he condemned. This is the tragic irony. People become the very thing they most fear or hate, utterly unconscious of their own transformation. But here's the game changer. Jung discovered conscious awareness of these patterns breaks their power. When you can recognize shadow projection, ego inflation, persona identification, archetypal possession, and repetition compulsions, you are no longer vulnerable to their unconscious influence. The most dangerous people are those unconscious of their own darkness. But the moment you become conscious of these patterns, in others and in yourself, you step out of their psychological jurisdiction. Jung spent his life mapping these treacherous territories of the human psyche, not to instill fear, but to offer freedom. Freedom from unconscious manipulation, freedom from projection fields, freedom from being recruited into other people's psychological dramas. The most dangerous Carl Jung psychology sign isn't just shadow projection, it's the absolute unconsciousness of one's own shadow combined with complete conviction in one's own perceptions. When you encounter this, remember Jung's words, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Those who cannot accept themselves will inevitably make you the repository for everything they cannot bear to see in themselves. Your protection lies not in fighting their projections, but in maintaining unwavering conscious awareness of what belongs to you and what belongs to them. That consciousness is your ultimate shield against the most dangerous psychological forces in human relationships. Have you encountered these warning signs in your relationships? Share your experiences in the comments below. Sometimes recognizing these patterns in our past can powerfully protect us in our future. Don't forget to subscribe to Psyac Solace for more insights into Jung's psychology that can transform how you navigate human relationships. If you're ready to explore more strategic insights about power dynamics and motivation, check out my video on Never Defend Yourself, Machiavelli's Law That Destroys Your Enemies. There I reveal a psychological law that modern neuroscience has now proven devastatingly effective. The moment you defend yourself, you've already lost the power game. Thank you for watching. See you in the next dimension of understanding.